All right, we're live. So I am working on. I'm Joshua Kemble. It's been a couple days since I've done the live stream. I usually do these like nightly or every other night, but at the same time, it's like it's been a while since I've done them, so a couple days, and it's partially because I've been working on my comics and stuff like that. But I got super interested in like this. I fell down a YouTube rabbit hole while working, and I was listening to a bunch of like scam baits, which are hilarious. It's like where people will kind of bait scammers and kind of mess with them. And it's kind of like a mix of like the Jerky Boys with like like the humor of like a prank call, but doing that to people trying to scam old people, which is hilarious. So anyhow, that's what I've been up to instead of streaming. And I thought I just finished Artcasters, which was a really cool episode. And I was just thinking about it. I was like, I finished one panel for my pitch project, and I need to get this off my plate so that I can work on the book 2 of my graphic novel. So anyhow, this is the stream where I usually work on book 2 of 2 stories. 2 stories. The first book, just in case you're curious, is my comic. It's a graphic memoir that deals with questions of faith, mental illness, depravity, and ultimately redemption in a fallen world. It's hand-lettered, hand-inked, and it's 122 pages, out from Marcosia Publishing, and it's a beautiful book, if I do say so myself. And so if you're curious about the second volume that I'm usually working on this stream, you can support me and my streams and my channel and all that stuff by picking up a copy of 2 stories. So that out of the way, what am I working on now? I'm working on a 5-page pitch for a script that I really liked that my literary agent wants to shop around. The first iteration, I had done inks that I wasn't like incredibly happy with. And so I thought about the mood of the story. It's a Victorian era story. I can't reveal much about it. That's why I've blocked out the type on the screen. And so I'm going to be working on that and possibly talking about just random stuff while I work. But if you guys are curious to watch Artcasters 2, we just finished it on Scott Cirkland's channel, which is Cirkworks, and that was pretty entertaining and interesting. Frank, how's it going, man? How you doing? Hang on a sec. If you want to join the stream, dude, you can. I don't know if you're about to crash, but I can send you a link. Let's see here. I'm going to send you a link real quick, just in case you wanted to. Hold on a sec. Okay. And Frank, I still haven't watched that. I still haven't watched that documentary that you talked about. Anyhow, about the VeggieTales guys on a stream a while ago. Let me see. Let me make sure. Okay, I did send that to the right person. Okay. But anyhow, like, yeah, I still haven't watched it because I got really. I've been listening to these audiobooks on different logical fallacies because I used to be like super into debate when I was younger. And for some reason, I was trying to kind of remind myself of all the different ad hominem arguments and what they are. And and from there, like, I started kind of watching some debates on YouTube because they're fun to listen to while I'm working. So I'm saying watching, but it's more like listening to. Like, I'd put them on and like listen to it as like a podcast while I worked. And then, like, once again, 5 days later, every night I was like watching these videos where people call up scammers and kind of mess with them. So anyhow, that's basically why I haven't been live streaming. So I do miss the Night Gang though, and so I hope to get back to kind of making regular streams. It's funny. There's times I think where I'll just kind of feel like, especially when you're drawing, it's like it's hard to remember to kind of like hang out and promote while you're doing it. Sometimes you just kind of want to draw and like be alone while you draw and like listen to podcasts or whatever. But I do love these streams. And so it's like, I definitely don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and like abandon doing them. So anyhow, I'm rambling, but I thought it was a pretty good conversation on Artcasters tonight, though. It was pretty inspiring. We talked to let's see here. Oh, hold on 3 seconds. Kind of in the zone here. So yeah, I mean, we talked to Gene Jimenez, and like he was like a colorist, and then I think a creative director for a Gene company, and like just kind of has this like really cool history in illustration and cartooning and graphic design, and I just think it's kind of amazing and interesting hearing the guy's story and talking about art and stuff. But it's funny because we were also talking about sort of the drive to do things being like a real advantage when you're young, and then you get older and like life kind of throws you around a bit. So like it's easy to kind of lose track of that like spark, that creative spark that kind of gets you pretty far in your career, like early on. So anyhow, it was just an interesting thing, and I was realizing like, well, I probably have another panel in me, so I'm gonna basically work on paneling this page, and then just kind of go from there, because it's not a complex panel. It's like it's the last panel of the page. It's kind of a close up of this guy doing his seance. So, and then I can't reveal much about the story other than that. Let's see here. But I am kind of enjoying this, like this style. The idea to redo these pages in this style was directly inspired by the tight thumbnails that I've been doing for book 2. And I realized like it would be cool to do a whole book in this style, but like super rendered out. And anyhow, so I just thought that was kind of a cool thing. I also need to getting notifications from like a thing that I had to silence. So anyhow, so basically I think the pitch is I think it'll go better if I kind of make it this more worked out, thought out pitch with that fits the mood of the story better, because I just felt like we had shopped it to like 2 or 3 publishers through my lit agent, and we weren't getting bites. And I kept thinking about it, and I was like, I don't think it's the story, because like the script is really strong. And so I was like, I just think I need to use a different art style for this story. It just calls for it. So it was either that I was going to redo the pages traditionally in the style that I did 2 stories, or find a different style. So we experimented with like 3 different styles for the pitch, and eventually kind of settled on this one. And this was the one I felt would be appropriate for the book. And it's funny because like I think my gut was right about that. I think there is something to be said in art to following your gut. So anyhow, Yeah, so I've been so initially I got a book on like different ad hominems, and then from there, like, you know, it just went further to a totally different thing. Let me make sure. Okay. Oh, and then I'm letting Frank hop on the stream. So Frank, just give me a thumbs up like once you're set up and stuff. um, so that I can like, oh, cool. All right. Let me throw you on here. And then I will shift over to this guy. How's it going, Frank?
Good.
Frank Salad,
Um,
Salazar Art Nation and Tarako Creative Cast. How you doing, man?
doing good.
I
Doing
just
good. I was having problems getting on, so it's taking me a while, but I was able to get on.
no worries. You up late working on comics and stuff?
Yeah. I had finished issue 2 of Captain Goggles and Mask Woman, and I got it formatted, I laid out, and so now it's just printing out copies.
Okay.
And I decided
Cool.
to reprint the first issue. So I've printed out in total, I think about 56 copies. So it's going to be, I'm going to do them as little packs, which I got some here.
Nice. How are you cutting them down, or are they folded?
They're folded, but I still have to cut off some excess. So I just use
Nice,
scissors. I do, and I made some, I print out some artist cards that I'm hand coloring.
dude.
And I
That's
put
cool.
some on newsprint.
Nice.
So right now I'm
That's
just
awesome,
cutting
man.
with scissors. So yeah.
That sounds fun. Putting together minis is like one of the funnest things in the world. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to wrap up this pitch so that I can get back to, because I had pretty good momentum on that second book, and then just I do want to have this in theory like being shopped around while I'm working on the next thing, you know.
Yeah.
But
Good.
but yeah, it's so funny. I haven't streamed in a while, and it's mainly because I fell down a YouTube rabbit hole and was listening to a bunch of different a bunch of different man, it was all over the place. It was like I think it's because I've been reading like these audiobooks. Like I have like a long commute, you know, to my day job where I work as an art director, and it's like it's like the longest drive ever, and I literally drive like 3 hours a day. Like if I add both
Oh wow.
routes, right?
Okay.
But it's a good job, so it's like worth the commute. And then it's like we live in an area that you can afford to live in and own a house as an artist in LA, which is really hard. um, so it's like the very outskirts of LA County. Uh, so it works out because it's like we can, you know, have a place and stuff like that, but we
Mm-hmm.
you know, the commute's a beast. So one of the things I do to kind of like, you know, make the commute better for myself is like listen to tons of audiobooks, you know, or
Mm-hmm.
podcasts. But the downside is if you get really interested in the topic and you want to like listen to stuff while working, it's like, oh, but I can't like do a live stream while listening to like somebody else's YouTube videos, you know? So anyhow, but I did realize tonight, I was like, I was about to go to sleep, and then I'm like, no, I'm gonna do another, totally rambling, but yeah, but anyhow, so that's
That's
kind of,
cool.
that's where it's been at. But I do miss the night gang, so I was like, I'm gonna hop on, see if anybody's up.
Yeah, I've been checking on. I haven't seen any notifications, and I wasn't sure you were gonna stream tonight. Like, all right,
Nice.
cool. But
That's awesome, man.
yeah, I completed my 100 days of making comics. I think Monday was my 100th day.
That is rad. Congrats. So
Yeah.
so is that's not your first time doing the hundreds, right? Like you've
No,
done it before.
it's my third time.
Nice.
In the first two times, and all of these times I did during COVID, but the first two times I never completed, but I got like maybe halfway there.
Yeah.
Uh, but I completed what I set out to do, which was make a comic. I think it was I was doing 8-page comics for the 9 vote for Marshall Lee's AAA creators Discord, and they put out their own anthology. So I was able to do stories both times for those books.
Nice.
Um, but after I would finish it because okay, I'll just continue another comic, but I didn't have anything lined up, so I just kind of like lost track, and I didn't have anything ready, so so I didn't really continue it. And this time, like, well, I just want to complete it, so I had like little projects. I was like, I'll just work on mini comics.
Nice.
So
It's awesome, man. I think that's cool. I think minis are a good way to go too.
yeah, like what I'm
Yeah,
doing right now, because I'm still continuing it, but I'm not calling it like day 100 or day 101, 102. I'm just like doing sections. So I'm doing a week of production, which I'm just taking a week to just make these, cut them and
yeah.
fold them and color these cards because I decided to add sketch cards that I printed out um, and hand color them because I'm a masochist. That's taking me a while.
That's rad.
But then after this, I mean, I might have to extend it to 2 weeks. But after I'm finished with this, I'm gonna do 30 days of making mini comics, or I'm gonna continue some other stories. But I also want to do videos where I'm talking about what I've learned this time, and like specifically with mini comics and
Nice.
uh, and I know someone on one of my videos said like they're having trouble with the writing. So like, well, maybe I can do a video about writing mini comics or how to come up with some ideas and brainstorm. Um,
That's
so I want
awesome.
to like talk about those like specific things.
It's a good idea, man. I think it's it's interesting. It took me a while to just come around to the idea of like, because like I grew up like doing a little bit of creative writing here and there,
Mm-hmm.
and for some reason there was like a disconnect when I'd write comics and I'd write like, if I was going to write like a review of something or like write something that like an essay for school or whatever, I had like this whole process where it's like, I'd write out a script. I mean, not a script, but I'd write out like a rough version and then I'd show it to friends and get it edited and then like revise and revise. And then finally you'd end up with like an okay thing, whatever it is. And I realized like, I don't know, for me, it was weird just kind of coming to this realization of like, oh, I should do that with my comics. Like it took me a long time to just figure that out. It's kind of weird in retrospect. At least for me, it's weird in retrospect that it took me a long time to figure that out. But I was like, I personally feel like that's when I started writing okay comics, was like,
Yeah.
But yeah, so like writing, but it is interesting. There's all these different methods, you can do like the Marvel method, you can
Yeah.
do,
Uh,
yeah.
that's what I tend to do, the Marvel method. But I'm starting to see like, and in some there's times that it works, um,
Yeah.
and there's times where like I could really get more stuff done if I had a script. so,
Yeah,
so
I don't know, it's weird, because it's like part of the fun of minis too is like you can be a little more spontaneous and stuff too.
yeah,
It's like, I think, yeah, but I don't know, man. It's an interesting thing. I'm always interested in like topics like that. But But yeah, I got way too into the logic rabbit hole. So just like Yeah, I think I've got a very strange personality because I'll fall down these weird rabbit holes where I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, let's learn a bunch of stuff about epistemic knowledge, and you're like, oh, okay. Like 4 days later, I'm like, I don't know. I've been enjoying reading about it and kind of going down that, but it is funny that somehow that ended up leading to like this weird rabbit hole of watching scam baiting videos. Have you ever seen those?
I've seen those.
They're pretty entertaining. I don't know, you know. But yeah, so that was pretty much. Other than that, just working on this thing, trying to get these done. So I got 2 done, and then this will be I'm hoping to finish the black and white of this one,
Okay.
or at least get some headway on it on this last pan. Like hopefully maybe this page, but we'll see.
Oh, cool.
So that leaves me 2 more to go, and then I can get back on the train of getting the second volume done. You know.
Yeah, like sometimes you need a break from your main project with like some smaller projects, which is what I do with these minis because I was doing 3 issues, but I took a break after I finished issue 2. It just penciled in it. I'm gonna do
Yeah.
a different one. That's when I did the tree horror one, the horror one with the tree people. Uh, and then like, okay, now I'll get back to the second one and get all these pages digitized and get them ready. And I started writing the third one, but I wanted to go back and update some things here. I was like, you know what? I
Yeah.
think I can do another story. So like, oh, let me finish this first. So like, at least I got 3 minis done in these 100 days, which was my goal.
Yeah.
Uh, and I got PDFs out of them. So and I put some up on my coffee account, and I've made money with them. So so
Nice.
so I did a lot in these 100 days, just productive wise, just getting stuff content made and setting it. So that's what I'm doing with these. I'm just putting them together and doing little packs. So what I plan on doing is I've been talking to my local comic book shop,
Mm-hmm.
and they're open to having uh, creators like display some of their stuff there.
Oh,
So I
nice.
want to take some at least 10 to 20 of these packs there and have those displayed there, and then the ones I have left over because I only did I think like 28 packs because I was running out of ink. And so the rest of
You
these
gotta
are here on
photocopy those things, man. The cartridges are gonna cost you more, you know. Um, with
I don't
minis,
know.
like, yeah. Are you doing inkjet or is it a
It's a
uh,
Canon Pixma, and it's those cartridges, and I have to get like a 2 pack, and they're expensive. They're like $50 for 2 cartridges.
yeah, dude, I would. I mean, you know, like that's cool. And actually, I did that long ago when I did minis. But I always found that unless you're using color, like just like go to like a Kinko's or something, you know. And you can bring like to you know like
Okay.
but yeah, and it'll come out like real nice anyway, you know.
Yeah, in
Um,
some of these I've been adding some grays, but I'm thinking, okay, the next ones I'm just gonna do black and white and not mess with gray tones.
well, I mean, if they're half toned, you know, like they'll photocopy fine, you know.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there, but that'll save you a ton because yeah, I did a run of like I think it was like 100 or something of this mini comic that was like 3 degrees or something. I ended up doing like a shirt. This is back when Threadless used to have this thing called the alumni club. So like if you got this is like before they did print on demand, you know. But it's like at the time, if you won 4 competitions, like if you got printed 4 times, I think, they would give you a 5th where they just paid you to do whatever. So like it didn't have to be voted on. And then those would usually be sold through like this club thing that they had at the time called Threadless Select. And so I was like, when given the option, of course, I was like, I'm just going to do like 99 panels of a weird slice of life comic as a shirt. Because I was like, I didn't have to worry about like, you know, whether people would dig it or not, you know, or wear it. But I also made a mini along with it. So like, you know, they were like these little ones, but I had to print them out on my inkjet. And I remember just like, I had to buy like 2 inkjets to run through them, like 2 ink packs. And I was just like, I can't. I was like a couple more ink packs and I could have like offset it, you know? But yeah, so I have heard laser printers are a good way too. Like to like that if you have your own laser printer, you can do okay runs, you know, on minis.
Okay. Yeah,
Totally
and
rambling.
I was gonna see like what printers were out there, because I didn't want to do the cartridges, but this printer was a Christmas gift from a friend of
Oh,
mine, so
nice.
I wasn't gonna say no, I don't want that one. so,
Well, inkjets are great,
so,
man,
but
for color
I like
tests
it.
and
I
stuff.
mean, I like this one, but I do want to get an inkjet or something with the big old cartridge thing. So I just go.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
those don't seem to be that expensive. I think they're like $20 as opposed to if I want to get some of these, it's $50 for 2 little cartridges.
Yeah, and with the what's it called? With laser jets, it's like the cartridges are expensive, but you can do like endless runs because it's using the powder as opposed to like the fluid. And it's like
Okay.
those things will last like forever. Like so it sucks because the cartridge itself is really expensive. It's like the long thing, you know, like you have in a photocopier or something. But it's like when you replace it, it's just like 100 times cheaper. Like other than replacing it is like a big cost, but then like you'll get like thousands of prints from it, you know.
Oh, wow.
Um, but I don't have an inkjet. But if I were gonna run minis a lot on my own, I'd probably look into that possibly.
That might be my next investment. I do like this printer.
Yeah,
But
well,
I think
inkjets
having
are
it limited and what I like about it, it's a scanner printer, and the reason I wanted that because I want to scan my art and then work on it digitally, but I haven't figured out, and I know there's a setting in there somewhere, but how to actually get it to scan into the computer. It's scanning like a copy machine.
hmm.
So I'll put it there and it'll just print out the scan. Like, oh, okay, well, but I like that for some of these rougher minis or
Yeah.
uh, and what I'm doing right now to because even if it's a black and white image, a picture, it's still using some color if I run it through the printer. But if I make one copy and then put that in the scanner bed and print it just black ink only, it'll just use the black ink and it'll just like the print it out. So I don't
Huh.
have to waste the color ink that much.
Yeah. Huh. So can you just convert it to like black and white using, you know, Photoshop or something?
I yeah, I can convert it to black and white, but I just did these without color anyway.
Oh,
And I
okay,
was just
got it.
I just used I think black, and then I just like lowered the tone
Yeah,
for some of the gray parts. Um,
nice.
like
That's awesome.
here, here.
So why are you thinking about abandoning the tone?
Just because it's like for that because of the coloring, it'll start using the coloring, and then that runs out quickly, and then I get copies that are like half faded, and like so I'm thinking like, well, I'll just use the black only for now, but
Nice.
unless I just make one really good copy and then take it to the photocopier and then just copy that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, dude, I like yeah, just making like yeah, because if you have one copy and then the way you're making those, like it's mostly folds and then you trim.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like Kinko's is your place, man. Like, cause you know they have guillotine cutters too, so it's like you could shave off the edges real quick, and yeah, I mean that's probably how I'd go. But then again, I don't know, you know, because I used to, like I said, I've done it both ways. I was kind of surprised by um, just doing the photocopy route is like pretty cool for zines. That's all I've come to the conclusion, but I don't know. See,
Yeah.
those look pretty cool though, dude. Like, so, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, and I did a couple of these where I used Scott's the kit. So I used the halftones. I only did two copies of like that, but I
nice.
just made it over so it has all these little dots that came out looking cool.
That's awesome.
But I only did on two, and the rest I just did regular.
That's rad, dude.
But I really like how this double page spread came out.
That's very cool. You know what's funny? I've never done the folded mini. Like, I never
Yeah.
have.
The
I
eight
should.
pages.
Yeah, I mean, I've done like I've done minis at that size, but I've never done ones that where it was folded like that, and I think that's a pretty smart format, you know. Because usually the way I do them is like saddle stitching, you know, where it's like,
Yeah.
but actually I think like that's a pretty smart way to do it. And seeing those
Yeah.
like mini comic bundles packs, you know, I was like, oh, that is a cool idea.
Yeah. And I have some of those somewhere here. That's where I got the idea of like, oh, I can make them as in a little bundle.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
And,
So how's everything going in Texas right now? Okay, everything okay? How's the weather? How's all that?
it's all right. It was a little it rained yesterday for maybe for like 30 40 minutes, and then it just got breezy. But it's fine. It's a little gloomy outside, but you know, not too bad. Um, I think it was last week. I got like very sick for about a day and a half,
Hmm.
and so I was concerned because people were like telling me like, "Oh, is it COVID?" Like, no, I don't think so. What are your symptoms? And I tell them like, "Well, that's COVID." Like, don't tell me that. Like,
Oh no.
but like I waited like to the next day and I was like, "Oh, I feel better now." So like, okay,
Oh, okay.
and
Nice.
and then
Did you do a test or anything? Like,
no, because that's why I was waiting to see if I was still feeling terrible the next day.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I'll go see a doctor. But like, oh, okay, I feel fine. And the only last couple of days, like I've been like sneezing and coughing, but I think it just might be the weather again, and like I might catching allergies or something. So.
Yeah, I've been having mad allergy attacks because just this time of year, I get hit
Yeah,
so bad with those. So I wake up and I have like red eyes. It's but that's pretty like par for the course for me in the this season or whatever. So
yeah.
yeah, I'm I don't know. Been been kind of enjoying getting these things done and working in a different style. It's been kind of fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Where is it? I was experimenting with a paper because I have some resume paper that it's just there, so I print out this set in resume paper, and I like how it looks. I just don't have that much paper that can make them all like this. But
Dude, resume paper is a good thing to print minis on too. Like
yeah,
using like that thicker like cardstock and stuff.
yeah, I like how
Especially
because
the
I got
creams.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I think this is like a cream color.
Hmm.
'Cause I bought a stack of newsprint because I wanted to do that, and I like how it looks. I like how it comes out. But when I do it here, it's kind of like the best of both worlds. It has that texture, but it
Uh,
has that thickness of printer paper.
yeah.
So
Although I think newsprint's pretty rad. So does that run okay through your inkjet or does it jam up?
the ones I'm using, it's pretty fine. I think I printed like I think 22 copies. No, the no, double that. Like 40 some copies with the print or the newsprint, and it's working fine. Might just be the type of paper. I'm not sure. It's a thinner one.
Hmm. That's
So
cool though.
this
Pretty
this is the
neat.
kind that they sell for if you're gonna package stuff like if you're packing and moving away. So you put your porcelain stuff, wrap it, and pack it
Oh,
away.
okay.
So maybe that's the difference.
Yeah, I have no idea. That's cool though. I mean, that's pretty rad. Pretty impressed by that. Yeah, so let's see here. So yeah, the whole like thing about epistemic stuff was really interesting to me because I had like forgotten about some of that stuff that I've been like reading.
Okay.
It's pretty interesting. It's like kind of like the philosophy of knowledge, like how somebody like comes comes to like know things and like it,
Yeah.
um I, I just like I find that really fascinating. The more I've been reading about it though, the more I've like started realizing like half of the arguments I'll hear from people politically on any end of the spectrum or really on anything or like just like ad hoc or not ad hoc, sorry, ad hominem.
Oh,
Like so like a lot of people don't. I don't know. It's been fascinating. This is a weird rabbit hole I've been going down, but I've been fascinated with realizing like I don't think like as people, myself included, I don't think we're like excellent at like making solid arguments. It's kind of a weird thing, but I've just realized like I think there's like a gap there, and it kind of makes sense because it's like it's a lot of work to make solid arguments.
yeah.
But I have no idea why I got interested in that either. But it's been on my mind. Weird little thing.
Okay.
Have you watched Invincible yet?
No, I've been hearing about it. It's on Amazon Prime, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Pretty
So I might
good.
check it out. I've been hearing good things about it. One of the other guys that I follow, and he's been on Jeff Lafferty's show a few times. So and actually, I had him on my show, Randy Siplon.
Okay.
He just did a review of
Wait, Kill
the
Reaver?
comic. Yeah, Kill Reaver.
Yeah, I know Randy.
Yeah, he just did a review of the comic Invincible.
Oh,
Invincible.
nice.
And then he talked about the show. I was like, oh, I gotta check. I've been hearing about it, but I didn't put two and two together. Like, oh, that's Invincible.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I remember seeing the artwork, but I don't think I ever read the books. Like, oh, well, I might pick up the book if I can find a good copy. And like, I
Yeah,
gotta check out the book.
I think I briefly read, like, I think probably like a few of the issues from a friend, and then I just kind of lost touch with it, which is kind of a shame because I guess it got really good.
Okay.
Um, it wasn't bad to begin with. It was just one of those things like where you know, like sometimes you'll, I don't know, at least sometimes I'll get exposed to something really cool and then just kind of forget about it. Like, um, so it's been fun because it's like I don't actually know everything that's going to happen. So there's kind of a benefit to like not having read the books, you know.
Yeah.
Um, like when watching it, because it's like there's twists that are like, whoa, okay, I didn't, you know, see that coming or whatever. Uh, but then again, there's also fun when you have read the books. Like, I remember when Game of Thrones was going, like I had read all the books, and so people who hadn't, it got to like this very famous scene, the Red Wedding, which is like just this. Uh, I don't think it's much of a spoiler at this point because that's a pretty old show, you know now. But it's like it's just this massacre. It's this shocking, just
Okay.
brutally violent scene. And if you've read the books, it's like, yeah, okay, you know that's happening. Like the second, but it kind of comes out of nowhere, and so it's like, so it was funny because it's like I watched that with people who hadn't read the books and were just like horrified. But for people who had, it was just like kind of fun to watch. So there's the advantage of having read it because you're like, I know this is coming. I'm gonna watch these people who haven't seen it coming, you know. So anyhow, that's
Okay.
one thing I could say. It's like a fun thing about having. But I should probably read the comics. I know Corey's a big fan, so of them. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the cartoon was pretty good. It's well animated and like pretty solid writing and script. So yeah. So
Okay.
how's everything treating you outside of uh outside of comics and stuff? Everything okay?
Terrible. No,
Yeah.
actually, no, things are good. I've been in talks with my kids. We're just trying to find a when's a good time for them to come down and see me.
Oh
Uh,
man, yeah. Like have you so because of the thing like the pandemic and stuff? Have you been able to see them?
Actually, no. Let's see. Well, the closest was in Thanksgiving, um, but they had to leave right before Thanksgiving, so I only had them for a few days.
Oh, that's got to be.
And and they're like their birthdays are coming up, and I think someone in that the family got sick, so that they couldn't do anything, and wasn't feeling well, and like just a lot of stuff was happening, so I wasn't able to um, go down there or have them come down here. I think their mom was having some problems like financially, so and I was saving up for the tablet that I got now. But I was thinking like, well, I mean they're my kids, so and I
Yeah.
don't want them to be without electricity. So like here, I don't know if this is enough, but like, use this for what you need. Like, don't worry about them coming down for a while. And then I was just looking through my finances, like, oh, I still have enough to buy a tablet, so I was able to do both things.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. But very good. We're just trying to find a time when they're able to come, because I think she's having trouble with the car.
Hmm.
Like, all right, well, I mean, I already helped you out once. I'm like, I'm like, all right, that's fine. We'll see when they can come. And I think with their school, the way it's over there,
Yeah.
because of COVID, they changed their holiday schedules, so they're not getting summer vacation because they've been getting more vacation sporadically throughout the year, but it's
Oh,
cut down.
trippy.
So, but it's just that specific school, because I haven't heard that going on anywhere else.
Yeah, because I was like, yeah, my son, I think he's still getting summer as far as we know.
Yeah,
Um,
because
but
I
it's so
think they
weird because
had
it
spring
changes a
break
lot.
cut down, like it was just one week, and usually it's two, or it was just like a few days, but like,
Yeah, my son's was only a week. That is
oh,
interesting. I wonder maybe they aren't doing. I don't know.
I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've been in schools. I'm not even sure what the actual vacation is supposed to be, but yeah. But I know they've
Well,
had shorter vacations, and uh,
oh man.
yeah,
Well,
and
that
summer
sounds
usually
like
when I
a
would get them the most. That's what. But oh well, we'll see what happens. Maybe I can go up there for a few days.
yeah, yeah. That's man. Yeah, it's that's another one of those things that I failed to think about. But that would be very hard to kind of know how you're going to work out. In this time where it's like
Yeah.
I don't know how to balance that. But
All right.
luckily, uh, I don't know. We'll see. But it's looking like things might start kind of getting slightly back to normal in like a month or so. So
Okay.
just kind of hanging tight. At least from what I'm seeing, it looks like the economy's opening up a little bit. Some resorts and stuff are starting to open up, and
Okay. Yeah.
so it, I'm you know I don't know. Well, it'll be interesting. In
Yeah.
California, though, I don't know about where you're at, but like in California, it's really hard to get booked for the vaccine because it's just like there's crazy lines, and it's like you know, I think it's not till April 15th or something that we're all able to get it.
Okay.
So I have an appointment booked, but it's like um, it took forever just for us to get like an appointment for ourselves.
Oh wow.
Because it's all queued up and it's just like massive amounts of people trying to get in on it. But I'm excited about that because I'm like I want to be able to just kind of walk around freely and not have to worry about picking up this terrible thing. I don't know. So I'm doing the one and done one, so it shouldn't be too bad. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. Is there? Because I know there was the one where you have to take two doses within the month.
Yeah, there's like there's Pfizer, Moderna. I think it's Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson and Johnson. And the Johnson and Johnson one is the one that's like one dose, and then Moderna. I've had a lot of family members take the Moderna one because they're teachers, and so it's like when they're in the first crew that has to get it to teach.
Yeah.
Um, and like nobody's had bad results or anything. They all started buying Microsoft products for some reason afterwards. No, I'm just kidding. I had a friend on Facebook that was kind of baiting people by saying, like, because he just got his, and he was like, and for some reason, I'm like really not a fan of Apple anymore. Getting the vaccine, yeah. So, but yeah, so like I'm excited about that, but I'm kind of optimistic because I'm like I can't imagine it being. I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic that things will start getting a little more like, I don't know.
Semi-normal at least.
Yeah, I mean whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
It's a weird thing.
I know Texas opened up 100%. I think it was like last week or 2 weeks ago, but here I don't know about other places in Texas, but like in one of the counties, one of the people in charge said like, "Well, I know like we're supposed to open up, but I don't think we should stop wearing the masks. So if like businesses have, you have that choice if you want to keep the mask mandate, you can. So most are still keeping it. Some are a little lax, but not that many. But I think it's mostly like private businesses. They're still doing that. So we're just waiting to see till it starts laxing a little bit. But at least I mean, at least it's something.
Yeah, I mean like for me it's just like I don't want to wear a mask, but I also don't want to get like a pandemic, disease.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm trying to be patient and kind of wait and be smart about it because it's like, yeah, I don't want to get rocked by that thing.
Yeah.
And at least in California, we see it a lot. It's like there was a point. Luckily, it's not there again, but there was a point where like like the morgue was like literally like overfilling.
Oh wow.
So they brought like shipping containers to the LA morgue to put outside to keep extra. Like it was really bad for a little bit.
Oh wow.
And that's not everywhere in LA. Like you wouldn't know it, but it's like it was, our local ER here had like a tent ICU set up
like
because
unit.
Yeah, like the whole parking lot was converted to a field hospital because the ICU was overrun. So, but now that tent thing is gone. So I'm kind of hoping. I don't know. I'm hoping and optimistic that life might actually start returning to normal, whatever that is. It's gonna be weird though. Like I'm wondering, even after things reopen, like are people just gonna comfortably go to like a football game or a convention? Like, like I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see like what the impacts on society as a whole are.
Yeah.
I feel like the second I get that, I might start doing signings and stuff, and if I can, the second I'm vaccinated.
Yeah. Yeah, I think just having that peace of mind. I'm still trying to, because I don't have a vehicle, so it's just trying to find a time where I can go to the doctor and say, all right, doc, what do you got?
Yeah. I was without a vehicle for a very long time, and it's kind of cool because it saves money, but it's like it is a bummer when like because your life has to be planned around bus schedules,
Yeah.
So it's like it is really hard to do things like doctor's appointments or anything like that because then it's like you got to kind of map out your route. I don't know how often do buses run in in your area of Texas? Because when I used to commute, it was like 1 hour or something at most.
I'm not sure. It differs because I know there's some areas where there is a regular bus passing, and there's some where it's not. But if you're happen to be in the right place and one passes by, you can stop them. So there's no like clear bus stops.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I was like, well, where's the bus stop? Is there one here? And I just found out that there is one, like just one across the street, like two streets across. Like, oh, okay, well, uh, okay, at least I know there's one nearby. I just don't know where the routes go. So like, okay, maybe I'll just go one day and see where it takes me.
Dude, so I don't know, like when I used to commute like using bus system and stuff, it's like they I don't know if it's this way in Texas, but it's like they usually have like a map and a schedule, so it's like you can look up like the bus
I
routes
hope
online.
so because in Corpus, that's how it was, or that's how it is. And when I lived there, I would get on it and it have a map, and I knew,
Yeah,
okay, we'll stop here, and there were more bus stops more clearly. You just see them. Oh, there's a bus stop. I can
yeah,
stop
yeah,
there.
yeah. But here
Here,
it's just kind of
they're not
random.
they're not clearly labeled. Just anything can be a bus stop, and I was like, oh, that I could never have imagined that was a bus stop.
That is so trippy. That's got to be a weird man. That's got to be a weird adjustment. Because yeah, like when I was there, it's like in Long Beach, they'd have like a bus run. Depending, if you were like downtown, it was like a little more frequent, but generally like about every hour. Portland, they had a bus running like every 15 minutes.
Oh wow,
They
okay.
had like one of the most. I mean, at the time, they had like one of the most efficient like public transit systems.
Oh, okay.
But here, like where I live now, it would be tough to kind of get around because like it's less organized. The buses run less frequently. If you miss your stop or whatever, it's like you could end up like out in the middle of the desert. So I don't know. But yeah, that's a hard thing to navigate, man. But good too, because it like I went a really long period of my life without any like without driving or anything. Let's see here. God. Oh, dude, we're at an hour, so I'm gonna take a very brief break.
Okay.
But I'm probably gonna keep rocking for like 20 minutes, so 20 or
Okay.
30 minutes. I want to get a little further. I don't. In reality, I may not finish this, but I think I still got some juice to work. So,
Good.
all right, I'll be back shortly. Feel free to plug your stuff in my absence.
All right. Cool.
Like where can people find your mini comics and all that lovely stuff?
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I'll be right back.
All right. All right, guys. You can get PDFs of my mini comics on my Coffee account. ko-fy.com/ I think it's .com / Salazar Nation Designs. And if you can go, you just go to my website, not my website, my YouTube channel, Salazar Art Nation. There's links in the descriptions of all the videos, so you can get this as a PDF and which other comics are too.
All right. So let's see here.
Is there anyone in the chats? Because I can't see.
The chats are fairly dead. I think it's because usually if I do these consistently, like people we'll kind of, schedule around it and stuff. But like, it's been a while, so it'll probably be a fairly slow one on the chat level.
Okay.
I did bug Corey on Facebook, so he might possibly be stopping by. I have no idea because he's also working really weird hours, so he may or may not. Who knows? It's always like a kind of surprise with these things. Partially because the way they're structured, it's not quite like Artcasters or Indie Review Show where it's like we're, like scheduling it out and like letting people know in advance, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, like the whole purpose of it is just to have something where I can kind of go live when I'm going to work,
Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah, and I was trying to do that earlier today after I got home from the mentoring class I go to.
Oh yeah.
Just so I can just finish some of this. Like, well, I'll just live stream and work on this. But then I think like it was that time I saw the Artcasters was on, and I was like finishing some other stuff. Like, okay, I'll just watch this. So like, then you popped on like, oh, and okay, well that's a perfect chance I can just work on this and not not worry.
Yeah, I mean it's the structure of this is pretty casual, so it's just to hang out and work on art and do stuff, So I've been really enjoying doing streaming though, just random streams because it's like it feels like art school, just kind of like hanging out and getting stuff done, So
yeah,
I think that's a pretty cool thing. But like, when you do this stuff, it's like often you're working alone in like a studio or something, or like at your house or wherever, and it's like a very like solitary thing. So I think like seeking out like community and stuff is really cool. A mentoring class, that sounds pretty rad.
Yeah, it's I've been going to it for I think 2015. Well, when my wife had left me and I came back uh, home here in my area, I think it was like a few months where I didn't have any structure, and I think I mentioned a little bit when you were on the Truckle show that
yeah,
I was praying and then God was putting in my mind like go to church, and when I showed up, they had a mentoring class, so I went to that. So since then,
okay,
so
that's cool.
yeah.
So it's that's awesome.
Yeah, and today we had a guest speaker because the founder he went to a Bible conference and they haven't had them because of the pandemic, but they kind of opened up limited, so he took advantage of, and it was a good one today. They're all good, but it was this guy
That's
that
cool.
he was like in and out of prison, and when he was like 10 or 11, started getting into like gang life. So he was talking about that, and he was talking about how he got out of it and how he found God, and like all these things just kind of aligned. So like it was a really good a good talk.
It's awesome. Yeah, I've been like, it's strange, but I've been like a little disillusioned with like the local churches here, and so we like me and some friends of mine who are Christians, like, and some family too. We just started doing like a Zoom meetup where we just do a Bible study and like go over different topics and stuff, and it's been really cool.
Cool.
Even doing communion and all that fun stuff. But it's like, yeah, the last thing we went over was like just kind of sharing like some of our favorite like Jesus stuff, which is kind of cool. Where it was like, what's our favorite kind of like it was interesting. It gave us like to me it gave me insight into everybody in our group because each person has like a different thing that that kind of stands out to them as like a favorite moment. Like for mine, it's like the woman at the well. That's like my favorite part, because like for me, it just seems like a good example of like how to be with people, like how to be around people who are like, seeking, water or whatever, so it's, so that was fun. But it was interesting because like a lot of the women in our group were really drawn to like Mary and her sister, like where they had that
Martha and Mary.
Yeah, Martha and Mary, where like Martha's like, kind of treating Christ like a king, and basically like anointing his feet and head, and like, is basically like criticized for doing that because Mary's like doing her thing, like trying to make food and stuff. And like, and it's kind of this dispute. But I thought it was funny that like a lot of the women in our group, I mean, it's not funny, but it was just interesting that like a ton of them, that was like their favorite part with Christ, was like how that went down, and like those two characters, and how kind of fundamental to like like, I mean, I like, yeah, they're pretty fundamental to like salvation, like some of the stuff that Christ like revealed through them and to them, and kind of speaking to each of their needs separately, based on like the individual and like their different personalities. It's very interesting. But that was a cool one. Anyhow, totally rambling, but that was pretty awesome.
Cool. Yeah.
So I enjoy that because like we do a different, like some of them are vague like that, where it's like, sharing like different things about Christ, and then some of them are like theological questions, like, what is heaven? and like, and then like, are you like, if you died, you like sleep, or are you like instantly raised with Christ? Like those are fun ones because like there's some hints and some indications, but there's not a lot of like clearly laid out theology on that. So it's like, it's an interesting discussion to like hear different people's thoughts on it and stuff. It's pretty cool. I think that kind of thing is really great for, sorry to anyone who's listening who may not like big like, religious stuff, but it's part of my life. It's a huge part. So I don't mind talking about that with a fellow believer.
And I thought of that too, because I know before the fall, I mean, even Lucifer was like trying to do some shady things by taking over. So like, okay, so how is it now? And can you be in heaven and fall? Like, no, I'm not gonna worry about that. I just want to get there.
Great questions, though, right? Like the thing I like about it, and I would say this for like anyone, but it's like I think a good church will entertain those questions, and a good church will entertain questions. Like, and I feel like if you're ever in a situation of any belief system where you're not allowed to question or ask hard questions, like get the hell out of there, like, whereas like I think the cool thing about that I find like with finding people who are really moved and believe is like there's thoughtful believers out there. There's people who like really enjoy actually the wrestling and the question, like the conundrums and thoughts and stuff. So I think it's cool. like what you just mentioned, that's a fun thought. As long as you don't get lost, like you don't miss the forest for the trees, you know, I think
Yeah.
that's a good yeah, it's like that's part of that thing I've been reading on critical thinking too, where it's like, you know, it's an important skill to be able to kind of analyze things and kind of see like potential holes in it and potential issues and try to kind of rectify and find out what your core beliefs are and stuff like that. And then I actually think that's like it's a wildly good skill to grow. That sounds like a good group, man. That sounds. I'm glad you've got a good community. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I really like my church, and like any church, it's not like the most perfect church ever. I mean, there's still
Yeah, there are
differences
no
with some
perfect
people.
churches.
So, and they often say like, if there is a perfect church, it stopped being perfect once you entered it. Because we're not perfect, so
Yeah,
anyway,
100%, man.
anyway,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
totally
Like
true.
there's good people, and like today I was talking to one of them after the class because we're also doing a play
Okay.
for I think for April. So the people in the play have been meeting I think almost every day. Uh, so I've been talking to some of them because I don't always get to see them. And hey, what's up? And I've been showing them like oh yeah, I just finished this mini comic and I'm gonna do a pack. And then I let them know I'm gonna start selling these, and some of them are interested. So like, hey, like, did you finish them? Like, I'm still like doing cut and folding. Like, oh man, like I want to see them. Like, I want to see them. What else you got? So like, so there's people that have been encouraging me. Like, yeah, like you've been doing the comics. Like I've been seeing that. Like that's good. And one of them was telling me like, I like to see the process how it's done. Like, oh yeah, like cool. I'll take more pictures and videos. So yeah,
Awesome.
so, yeah. So I like it.
That's very cool. I think yeah, it's great to have communities. It's great to have like a core group of people with like commonality, like I think one of the most important commonalities you can have. So it's like you can kind of overlook differences because at your core, you know, like you kind of have like very shared values, very shared core
Yeah.
values, you know. Um, yeah, it's interesting. I think after the pandemic, I might potentially. I know it's weird, but it's like I've actually been thinking lately about potentially checking out like Lutheran churches.
Okay.
It's kind of a weird thing, but as somebody who grew up in like the like now I don't even know if I'd like align myself with a specific church, you know?
Okay.
I mean, because like theologically it's like I definitely it's like looking at like the history of it, it's like I'd say it probably ties in with like not the modern Armenian church, but Armenianism, like the early foundations of the church, like kind of branched into sort of like, you know, Armenianism and then a couple other sects and stuff. And it like to me, a lot of those things sort of ring true.
Okay.
Um, but then it's like also weird because it's like there's a lot of the early Catholic, like I don't, you know, personally subscribe to that, but a lot of the early Catholic thinkers, you know, like St. Augustine, it's like I definitely agree with a lot of his theology,
Yeah.
like especially when it comes to like total depravity and stuff like that. So but it's like it's weird. But like I have noticed, like I think a lot of there's some things about Lutheranism that I'm actually pretty fascinated with. Like the liturgies and stuff, I think are pretty on point. And so,
Okay.
I don't know, but I have no idea because like we had a really good church community in Long Beach. Like we went to one of Francis Chan's plants, church plants out in like Orange County. Um,
Oh.
and it was pretty amazing, but it's like, I don't know. We still haven't, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. So that's going to be an after COVID journey of like trying to find a church.
Okay.
Because we had one we were attending that I felt pretty good about until about a year ago. And I was like, I don't know if I can go here. So it's a weird thing, but yeah.
Yeah.
I think the importance is to be in community with other Christians, but it's like, it's like I said, if you found one that you feel at home with and like you get, your spiritual food or whatever from, it's like, I think that's a good place to be, I
Yeah.
also feel like the whole, like a lot of the times, like the denominations and different sects of Christianity kind of become problematic because it's like, really, we're just supposed to be like following Christ, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough though. I don't know.
Yeah. Like I know my church, like the specific the denomination, like if you just say it, uh people have a certain image, but that's not how my church is. So
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, okay, I know about that. But like, no, it's not like that. So, we're Pentecostal.
Oh, okay.
We believe in the Book of Acts type of church and speaking in tongues. Well, other when you say that, people are thinking, oh, like what's that preacher that I think not Baker.
Falwell,
There's I'm not sure. There's a preacher that it's become a meme, but like he'll
the
throw his
faith healing
jacket
guy.
and people will fall back.
Yeah.
So like that's what people think. Um, like no, we don't do that. And, so, I mean, we pray for the sick, but there's not like it's not a show. It's not
Yeah.
the performance. Uh,
Yeah.
like no, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's valid, man. It's like, yeah. I I think it also just depends on where, you know, because I'm sure
yeah,
there's some like Pentecostal churches that you would probably steer really far away from, and then some that you'd be like, yeah,
yeah.
this is the place. Um, I tend to like I said, I feel like I don't really, um, yeah. I mean, I definitely think there's theological differences, like in some of that stuff. Like for me, I probably don't know if I believe in speaking in tongues.
Okay,
Um, and it's not that I don't believe it's possible. I think it's very possible. I just have never witnessed it, and when I have, it's been like it's been
it's
mixed.
been Yeah, it's been like on the extreme. Yeah.
Yeah, well, when I've seen it, it's like the thing that makes me skeptical of that. Um, and it's weird because I'm like literally a believer because of the Holy Spirit. So it's like I don't deny the idea of the Holy Spirit like being able to have a very huge impact on somebody. But it's just like biblical speaking in tongues from what I've read. And keep in mind this is my own take on it, but it's like it
Mhm.
usually would be like speaking in a literal language that's translatable.
Yes.
And the version I've seen is like people kind of, and this is my own thing, what I've witnessed, and like it's probably not where you're at, right? But it's like people would just kind of babble in like a non-language, and then somebody would stand next to them, kind of guessing what they mean. And like to me
Okay.
that, yeah, so that's where I was like, I don't know, like if I witnessed it and like somebody who didn't learn German or something, uh, or Aramaic or Hebrew or something that, like an actual language, just suddenly started speaking that language, like that would probably convince me. But if it's like somebody just kind of making utterances and there's somebody interpreting, but it's not necessary, it's like not 100% certain interpretation. That's where I get like
Mm.
I like my own, like I don't even deny that it's true because it's like I really don't know. I'm not that person, you know. I'm not the person translating it. It's just that's the part of me, the part where I go like I don't know if I can personally, like, you know, I don't know if that makes sense, um,
Yeah,
or
no,
whatever.
like no, I get that. And
But also, like I don't, like I said, I'm not convinced by it, but I don't put it out of like possibility because I definitely think there is biblical basis to believe that it it's possible. You know, it's definitely possible. You know, so I don't know. Sorry, rambling. What were you gonna say?
well, I was gonna talk about because I think it's in I can't remember with Babylon, right? The Tower of Babylon, where they're building the tower, and they're like, "We're gonna reach heaven," and God's like, "Okay, I'm gonna make them speak different languages."
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, so I always understood that, and but also in the Book of Acts, after I think it was after Christ resurrected, he said there's going to be a Comforter, the Holy Spirit,
100%.
and uh, and that's when they were together, and they started speaking in tongues of fire, which I understood that was the the, the different tongues that you don't really understand. So like, but yeah, and then that confused me too because that is the type that we do or that I do, but it's not I don't know. I think it's different once you're there or actually experience it because I have seen kind of people kind of like trying to make sense of it or trying to like you're saying. I think it's this, but it's not always like translatable. Like it's not always like a prophecy. Sometimes it's just praising, but
Yeah, yeah,
and so it's like we you will listen to the person translating when it is something like that, and like okay, like I don't know if they got their wires crossed, but usually like it's we're good at sussing it out. So it hasn't happened in a while like that, but and it's like
yeah. And
there's
I'm
no
not.
one assigned, but like I mean usually like oh like when this guy he translates, I know it's
Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be a gift, right? Like the gift
yeah
to be able to understand and or interpretation and then
yeah
speaking in. And like I said, there's definitely biblical basis for it. It's just the descriptions that I've read you know, because to me, I think you're right about the tongues of fire as well. But to me, the descriptions of like the early church speaking in tongues, it was like descriptive languages, you know? So
Yeah.
it's like that to me, I don't really see personally a separation for it, but like I said, it's not a hill I'd die on. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's not, I don't think it's going to affect your salvation. Like there are certain things where I think like, you know, theologically to like be a Christian, you'd have to believe, you know, but like to me, that wouldn't be one where I don't think like I said, I think actually it's kind of cool and it's outside of my experience. Cause like I said,
Yeah.
I've only visited a few. And that was when I was younger and, you know, very quickly became an atheist after that for a long period of time. So it's like, I might have a different take on it now. And I
Yeah.
don't rule out the Holy Spirit. I think that's a big mistake that people make quite often is ruling out the power of the Holy Spirit or whatever. So
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
Yeah. And it is
Yeah.
hard to explain. I'm trying to explain it in a way that like because I'm hearing it like okay, I sound like a nut job, but
No, you don't. No, not at all. No, it doesn't. I mean, maybe to somebody who doesn't, maybe to someone who doesn't like read the Bible or whatever, you know, and believe it as truth. Like, but then again, like if somebody doesn't believe it as truth, like we all sound insane, you know.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I wouldn't rule it out. Like I was only saying like my own thing with that, but it's not like a huge thing. It's just more like because it's like I said, if you found that community, that's your community, and that's cool. And if you get
Yeah.
fed spiritually from it, then like that's where you should be, you know. Um, I think we're all kind of called to different, even sometimes different denominations, you know.
Yeah.
Kind of weird, but like I'd
Uh,
hate to. I mean, wasn't C.S. Lewis like in the Church of England or something? I believe he was a member of the Church of
I
England.
think so.
So
Yeah.
it's like he's a good thinker, good like wrote some solid theology, like you know. So I like to me, I don't rule out just because like yeah. The reason Lutheranism's been interesting to me is just like I don't know too much about it except some of the liturgies um and I have a lot of really deep thinking Christian friends that like have been doing that, and like I've just noticed this like I really agree with this guy a lot, and then I find out they're Lutheran. Like it's just a really weird thing because I didn't grow up around Lutheranism at all, so it's to me that's been fascinating. Where I'm like, to me that's something I might explore or check out and see
Okay.
and weigh it because anytime I'm like checking out a church, I kind of weigh whether it's spiritually sound or not. You know, like if they say
Yeah.
something kind of antithetical to what I believe is truth, according to the Bible, it's like I'm pretty much going to bail. Like, you know, I mean, I'll probably talk to the people who said it first, but um, I that's been a curiosity of mine, but I have no idea. You know, yeah, I don't think Pentecostalism's that crazy. No, I don't
Yeah. I
really.
know we used to say non-denominational, but like I think the pastor at the time said like, no, we have a denomination. We're Pentecostal, but this is why we're Pentecostal. Because it used to be like, oh, I'm this and I'm that, and people are like, oh, well, I don't like them or I don't like that church. Like, well, no, it's about the people. Like, so, uh, but yeah, like I mean, and I've talked to people that are Pentecostal and like, oh, okay, yeah, like, that does is a little different from what we do, but for most of them, they're nice people. I mean, there's just like we differ in some things.
Yeah, I think we all kind of struggle to find common ground and try to find
Yeah,
it where we can. You know, let's
yeah,
see here. Yeah, I don't think there's. Yeah, it's been pretty interesting. My own journey with that, like I really miss Rock Harbor though. That was where we were going when my wife and I were first saved. That was a
Hmm.
good church. I don't know what they're like now, but it's like that was definitely a good church. It was based around like little community groups, and I don't know, just very theologically like on point. Um, yeah, in my this local area, I don't know. I got to check out some other area stuff. 'Cause we were going to one that was calling itself non-denominational,
Okay.
and and it was kind of cool, but yeah, in the last year, it just became really hard to believe. I don't know. It's interesting. It became hard to believe some of the people going there believed. I don't know if that makes
Oh, okay.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Even like, I love my church, and I don't see myself in another one. But like, there's some people out there that I know, like, um,
Yeah, and it's
they're
hard, right?
that
Because it's
they
like you.
still like do some stuff, and like, well, I mean, I'm not following them, and the pastor isn't doing that. So,
Yeah,
and he said, you know what? A lot of times, I know, but I'm letting them come and tell me on their own time. So,
yeah,
so, yeah.
yeah. I mean, that makes sense, you know. But for me, it was more just like a kind of yeah. It might have even branched out to like the pastor himself, and so it was like I don't
Oh,
know.
and that's where like, okay, like I won't be there. Like,
Yeah, yeah. So it's and once again, like I don't expect people to be non-hypocritical when it comes to that in a weird way because we're all kind of lost and we're all sinners. But it's like
mhm.
there's a difference between being hypocritical and being pharisaical, you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's like that's where I draw the line. It's like I don't want to be going to the place that the tables would be overturned at, you know. So that's where we started feeling kind of convicted, like, yeah, maybe we need to find a different thing. So, but yeah, that's very weird. It's a weird thing. Uh, that's been interesting, but it's a fun topic. I mean, it's interesting to me. I don't know how interesting it'll be for my viewers, but
yeah,
yeah, it's like I pretty much talk about like politics and religion all the time on this thing. And I kind of don't
yeah,
like the idea of any topics being like totally off the table, you know. But I like the idea of like more open discussions. Um, because yeah, those are the fun things, man. Like I actually think that's a cool thing to know about you, actually.
yeah. Oh, thank you.
You
Yeah,
know,
and
because it's like I feel like whenever people are in positions where they can't talk about certain things, like they usually you kind of never get the opportunity to know someone. Like that's good to know about you. It's not a bad thing. It's just like it's a part of who you are, and so it's like that's cool to know. If that topic were taboo or whatever, I wouldn't know that. You know, I don't know if that makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah, and like I don't think it's taboo, but sometimes I'll talk to people and they'll say something mocking tongues, and I'm like, oh, like I speak in tongues. I was like,
Yeah, I hope it didn't come across like I was mocking it because I don't view
no, no,
it. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
because I
no,
definitely don't view it like a I don't view it like I mean personally I don't believe it
okay,
from what I've seen, and not saying I don't believe your take on it. I don't know, you know, but personally I don't. I have yet to be convinced of it being around now, but I wouldn't rule it out. And I think it's definitely one of those scenarios where if somebody's mocking that, especially if they're a believer, I don't know. I think they'd be overstepping kind of what we can say is, because it's like there's definitely biblical backing behind it. So it's like I can't. Well, I'm not personally like I've never witnessed it in a way where I was like, oh, that's definitely speaking in tongues, and I've never personally spoken in tongues. Dude, I can't. I literally cannot speak to someone else's experience in that on that matter, because it's definitely biblically possible. So, like I said, I don't. Yeah, so I hope I don't. I definitely hope I didn't sound mocking in that.
No, no, like did some mocking at all.
Yeah.
But I had that experience where, and usually it's people that used to believe and they'll kind of say mockingly like, okay, well, whatever. So
Yeah, and I think like I said, I think there's a lot of stuff from. I mean, like when I used to be an atheist, I would have been all over that, But it's like I don't.
yeah, I saw that in the first two stories, and I read that like, oh, okay, and I was gonna bring it up when you were on the show, but we're just having like just a good conversation of what we're talking
Yeah,
about already. Because I was like, oh, this is a perfect time. Like I'd say like, oh, like like that people falling down. Like I can see that like that being like okay, yeah, we don't do that. I don't know why like that. I even in the Bible, like I've never read that as being biblical. And usually when someone was convulsing, it's because they were having a seizure.
yeah.
So
Well, that's
like,
good.
um,
Although that part, like it's once again, it's like it's weird when I'm writing that too, right? Because it's like a lot of what I'm writing in that is very true to my experience, right? But it's also like very true to like where I was at the time, as opposed to like what I don't know. It's like kind of having to write yourself from like before being saved.
yeah,
Um, at the same time, like it, it is interesting because like it did at the time that happened, it did look like those YouTube videos that I did used to look those up when I was an atheist because I used to be very anti like, it's like I wasn't a kind person to like believers. Like I wasn't like, I guess at the time I wouldn't have considered myself hateful, but I was definitely not a like, I took enjoyment watching them get crushed in debates, I don't know if that
yeah.
makes sense. Um,
Hey,
so it's an interesting thing, but it's definitely like, I don't watch those videos now. Although I am still weirded out by certain things some Christians do, but not like that wouldn't be the bone I'd be picking. Like I personally, it's like
yeah,
speaking in tongues is like the least harm one possibly, if it's harmful, which I doubt, but it's like it seems like the least of the issues to deal with in the church, because it's
hey,
theologically like it's possible. So why would anyone? There's a lot of things that like are very clearly not biblical that are being practiced by
yeah.
a lot of churches that should be like the first thing to be addressed as opposed to like the next,
That's true.
Oh man, this is taking a while. But yeah, I think that's a cool belief. Like I said, I think God works in interesting ways where he's like it's actually a kind of Mary and Martha is a good example of it, right? Where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, so Mary's like cooking, right?
I think
And
it's the other way around. I think it's
okay,
Martha.
thank you, yeah. My brain's like getting all 12:30 midnight
I think
about it.
Martha is the oldest one, so she was seeing like more of the responsibility.
Yeah. So it's Martha, right? So when Christ talks to Martha, though, like after Lazarus is dead, right? It's like he has a different approach than he has for Mary. You know, he kind of speaks to what each of them need, and
Yeah,
I think that's kind of how it works with churches. I know it's weird, but it's like I think I think there's different. There are some churches that just probably shouldn't be, you know, but then there's some like different sects that I think speak to different ways that people need to learn about Christ. I don't know if that makes sense.
oh yeah, yeah.
So like being like, there's some people who might need um, the tongues and really be more of like a believer who's or like somebody who really feels like their way of worshiping God like is like through music and
Mm-hmm.
singing praises and stuff like that. And then you have other people who are like probably like more prone to like worshiping God with their mind, and some people who are going to be worshiping God with their body. Like I think they're all kind of, I think there's people with different gifts and different um, ways of kind of learning about God. And so it's like, I don't know. I think as long as they're not like wildly heretical, like I'm not really concerned about them,
Yeah,
I don't know if that makes sense. Um,
yeah,
because it's like some people, after they lost somebody, need to hear logic, and some people just need you to cry with them. Right?
yeah,
People are different. You got to kind of read. At least I don't know. I feel like you got to kind of sometimes real like for me that's at least how I look at something like Pentecostalism, where it's like it it I don't think it's wrong. I don't think there's anything incorrect about it theologically, but I also don't personally think like you know like I don't think Saint Augustine, not that he's a saint, like I don't even necessarily believe in saints beyond the the apostles. Like I don't know about sainthood and stuff, but the point being, Augustine, I don't think he's like in hell because he was Catholic at the time. You know,
yeah.
um, I mean that's a different era of the Catholic Church, but still, it's like
Yeah, there's these YouTubers that I discovered and I've been watching them, and they're two friars. They're I think Franciscan friars,
oh nice.
and I'm like, well, I'll check out one of their videos, see what this is about. It seemed interesting, uh, and the way they explain some things, and there's stuff like I don't agree with. Like, okay, I wouldn't do that, but there's stuff that they're talking about, like, oh, yeah, like that's good, or that sounds good, like, I never
Yeah,
thought of it like that. So like, and yeah, even like some they talking about the cross, and like I don't wear, like personally I don't wear crucifixes. Um, I have like a little cross that belonged to my dad. It has a little dove on it, and I gave it to my oldest son, so I went to like pass that down. But aside from that, I don't really like have that. But they were talking about the cross, and they're like talking about like what it means to them personally. Like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see that. Like, I can get that. So,
yeah. I'm kind of. It's interesting, but it's like I've never
mm,
been like a huge cross guy.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't
Like,
I don't
me
judge
neither.
it. I
Like,
can see why. Yeah, I can see why it's meaningful. Because it's definitely a part of the story.
yeah.
But it seems like almost like missing the point.
Yeah.
Like, not that it's cool, and it's like I'm all for it, and I think there's some beautiful art for it, and it's kind of cool to like reflect on Christ. And we are like in communion, right? You're called to like reflect on the sacrifice of Christ, and
Mhm.
you know, and do the sacraments and stuff. But at the same time, I don't think the focus of salvation, like, I don't know if the whole focal point is it's almost like it's
It
almost like
didn't
if you have
end.
a
Yeah. It didn't end at the cross.
yeah, and if you have like a math, if it's almost like if you used a math problem to come to a solution, and then you just focus on the problem rather than the solution, which is like, oh, okay, well, like, uh, it is a beautiful story, and it's amazing, but at the same time, yeah, like Christ is not dead, and I think that's kind of an important
Mm-hmm.
component. But yeah, I would agree with you on the cross thing. Although I do think it's beautiful, and I think there's
Yeah.
some really beautiful art, and like if again, like, to me, I would view that almost in the same fashion, where it's like I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that's going to make or break somebody's beliefs.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. Okay, this is coming along. Do you mind if I step out for 2 seconds again?
That's fine.
Be right back. All right. Shortly back. Making progress on this thing, though. I might call it. It's yeah. So I'm gonna step out, and then I think I'll probably go another half hour.
Okay.
Yeah, but let's see. Okay.
All right, guys. Welcome to the new Sarasara Nation on location on Joshua Kemble's channel. And so I got these many. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. So 3 packs. I'm gonna grab my 4th one. And I think I got like 2 more.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I think when I was younger, that's weird. Hang on a second. For some reason, this like did this weird. There it is. I had a shortcut on my Mac that like blew up StreamYard.
Oh, okay.
So now it's like hard to see. Okay, there we go. Yeah, it's a weird thing, man. Like, I think like when I was younger, I was a lot more hardlined about things that, like, the more I've read the Bible, the more I don't think they were as hardlined as they seem.
Mm-hmm.
Like growing up, they were really big on like the rapture, being like pre-trib, and like
Yeah.
they'd have like these huge things about it, like as if somebody's faith was hedged on that. And I was like,
Yeah.
I don't remember Christ saying anything about having to believe even in the rapture. I mean, it's good to, and I'd debate somebody if they didn't think there was a rapture. But like when it takes place, like I have yet to see anything that would compel me to think that it's going to happen, like before the tribulation or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like things like that, where it's like pre-trib or post-trib, people like literally kick people out of churches for that kind of thing, and that's ridiculous. Like, to me, I think that's absurd. Not all churches, but some churches, that's just not like a line I'd draw in the sand as to like whether somebody's, it's not like in the catechism. It's it's, I don't know. I just like, I feel like there's some core things that we definitely should draw a line on, but it's like, I think it's important to not like to me, like something like speaking in tongues is a good example of that, where it's like, I don't see an issue with it. Now, if like somebody at your church was like speaking in tongues and telling you to like go out and like murder people or something, I'd be like, yeah, there might be an issue with that, but it's like, I don't think like to me, it's kind of like the food thing, where it's like, all food is permissible. It just kind of depends on the person's belief. And like, if I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of how I view it. But as I've gotten older, I'm just like less and less hard-lined about certain theological things. Most like the literal days of creation, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I definitely think you'd have a hard time theologically if you don't believe there was a creation. Like, like that might be a little problematic,
Yeah.
But it's like, or if you don't think there was like original sin, like that could be a huge problem. But it's like, yeah, I don't know. I worry sometimes that like when we get too hard-lined about things that aren't necessarily clear, that will kind of miss the stuff that is clear, or that will like miss the common ground with like people who are actually, it's like an unnecessary fight with your brother or something, I don't know if that makes sense. So that's where like, like definitely where I grew up, like the Christian school I went to, pre-atheism, like would have been like very hard-lined about Pentecostalism and stuff, but that was also like a very hardcore, like Southern Baptist style, school. So it's like, it makes a little more sense if you're coming at it from like this weird perspective where, I don't know if that makes sense. I'm rambling, but I'm also, I have this tendency to think out loud as well. So, yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine.
But yeah, like, I'm trying to think like what other things have been surprisingly unclear that I thought were so clear when I was a kid, I was just rereading the section where Christ is talking to the Pharisees, and he does the whole "woe to you" statements.
Mm-hmm.
And I was realizing like that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Where it's like, like you have this whole group of people who like they really knew scripture, but like they weren't practicing it, they weren't applying it, they weren't loving their neighbor. They were kind of using it as like a political tool, and it's like that's not, and they were being hard-lined about things like the Sabbath, like don't work on the Sabbath, and then like it, to the extent where it was illegal to like feed someone on the Sabbath because and it's like, come on, like what's a higher priority, like loving your neighbor or like following this like legalistic like thing? And it's like, so it's like that's the parts where that's actually one of the things I admire about Pentecostalism from what I've read on it, is like its focus on the Holy Spirit, I think is really good.
Mm-hmm.
because I think that gets ruled out a lot in a lot of theology. And whether I think like in my life, that's not how the Holy Spirit's worked, but I've definitely felt the Holy Spirit, and it's why I'm saved. So it's like I can't discount that because I just know it's truth, and it's like really bizarre, but it's like definitely my experience of it has been a lot different than that. I don't tend to like start speaking, but maybe someone else does, and like that's the thing. I don't like.
Yeah.
There's no reason to draw a line on that for me at
Yeah.
least. I don't know if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
And it's for us, it's not something we take lightly. Um,
Yeah, of course.
like like
I
and
and I
and
hope I'm. I
there'd
hope
be
I don't
like
seem.
no,
Yeah.
no, like, I
Okay.
understand.
Yeah.
And even in my church, there'll be some people, not so much now, but when they were younger, they would just kind of use it as slang term, like, and just talk like, oh hey, and then like speaking tongues, kind of like that's the hip thing to do. Like, oh no, it's a reverent thing, and like I use it when I'm worshiping, and there's like different levels, I guess, like the interpretation comes in. It's not something like I'll just like, oh hey, this is what I can do and check this out. Like, so when I'm praying, it'll come out, and I'm not really thinking about it. Like, okay, now I'm gonna say this word. Like, no, it's just.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. That makes
I've
sense.
seen people kind of like use it as I don't know, like, misuse it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it's hard to say even with that, right? Whereas,
Yeah,
um, yeah, I definitely, yeah, it's been an interesting journey as a Christian.
yeah,
Because like to me, I think like once again, I feel like the most important thing about it is just to like uh judge not lest you be judged, and like to love other people, and try to treat them as best you can, like as you would yourself. And it's like,
hmm
um and I think other than that, like I kind of feel like even like in our actions, like trying to be holy or like commit to like some kind of um like following the 10 commandments perfectly or loving our neighbor perfectly. It's like even in that, like there's inevitably contradiction, right? You could try to like love your neighbor by doing something really caring for them, and by doing that, like maybe you like deprive somebody unintentionally of like resources that then hurt them. Like, so because of sin, it's like, and our world is like touched by like, corruption. So it's like every attempt we have to be holy with our own power is pretty useless. Um,
yeah,
and so it's like I feel like yeah, I just start realizing like more and more it's just about kind of surrendering to God and just kind of like trying to love other people, and then also just trying, like I don't even think salvate like that's the weird thing is like I've even more and more started realizing like I don't even think salvation's necessarily something you can give someone. Like it's like I can't, I can talk about my own experiences as a Christian, but it's like I'm not really a giant believer in like I think I should tell my testimony, but it's like I don't necessarily know if I'm going to convince anyone, because it's like my job isn't to convince, you know. It's like you make a
yeah,
case for it, you do the Paul thing, but it's like, when Paul was in Greece, it's not like he was he made a fairly compelling argument, but it's not like God was going to choose who was moved by what he said and put him where he needed him to be. So it's like Yeah, it's kind of free. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like it's been freeing being a Christian, because I realize more and more, like the older I get, the more like legalistic stuff, just like the whole purpose of Christ was not to have the legalistic stuff. And
Yeah.
a lot of the stuff that's like following the law is just like a natural outflowing from it, as opposed to like some effort, like um and our efforts are often in vain, so it's like I don't know. I think that's probably one of my favorite books of the Bible is Ecclesiastes,
Okay.
because I get all dark and moody about it. But it's also really freeing to realize like it's enough to actually just follow Christ and like try to follow his precepts and be filled with the Spirit so that you can follow his precepts.
Mm-hmm.
And the weird thing is, even that you don't have much say in. It's not like you get to pick when the Holy Spirit comes. I mean, you kind of can. You can pray for it, but it's a weird thing, man. It's a mystical thing. I kind of like it. I'm rambling, but yeah, I think that's interesting though. So Pentecostal is pretty cool though. Like what? So what would you say is like the defining thing about like what makes a Pentecostal? Because I don't know a ton about it. So. And I'm not. By the way, you also don't have to talk about any of it if you don't want to.
I think like aside from the tongues, because that is a part of it, but it's the way the Book of Acts church was and is, that they felt the Holy Spirit, they got a new gift and they wanted to share it.
Mm-hmm.
And right after when Jesus resurrected, and he's like, okay, I'm leaving, but he said, I want you to go and tell people.
Yeah.
So then that's part of our, I guess, like our mission statement, or part of our thing, like go ye into all the world. So it's like having God's spirit and then sharing it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and people are
I would
gonna
agree.
reject you. Even says, if they don't accept you, then just wipe off the dirt from your feet and just go on. Like, all right, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is like um basically apologetics stems from the idea of we're told to tell people why there's hope within us. That's it.
Yeah.
It's like there's not much other than that. Oh, and definitely we're supposed to like kind of look out for the orphans and the widows.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of explains a lot of missionary work where it's like, it's important to be out in the world and helping people. But it's like, yeah, so I'd agree with that. I think the only place it's weird. It's like I don't even disagree. It's just I've never witnessed speaking in tongues.
I think
I've never witnessed it in a way where I'm convinced. Like I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think because that can be a hard thing for some people to like get past. But I think
like I said, I wouldn't
between actually being there and experiencing it than just kind of hearing about it. Like if I'm just telling you about,
I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't discount it. Like that's the thing. I wouldn't discount it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure it's experiential. I mean, definitely. I will tell you though, like because Because like the one thing I would need to see to be convinced of that would be literal language, like biblical style. So it's like suddenly, Frank, you start speaking, Hebrew or something. And it's like if you start speaking Hebrew and you didn't know Hebrew before you're speaking Hebrew, and then somebody in the congregation happens to be a linguistic expert on Hebrew, and they're like, "Holy crap, he's saying this!" Like, you know what I mean? That's where I'd be utterly convinced. But it's like, beyond that, like, I guess I would have to experience it myself, maybe. And then even if I did, and this is a thing, this might be just like a rollover. So this touches on like the thing I was talking about different experiences and different people and God working different ways with different people. For me, it's like one of the things that, when I became an atheist, I was sort of horrified by like this sort of crowd mentality of like, I talk about it in my book too, of like chapels where people are reciting verses. And it's like this very, and don't get me wrong, I actually think it's good to learn verses and stuff now, but it's like, I think that the belief I had at that point was more based on propaganda and sort of propagandizing systems and like systems of belief that were like, group think and like, it's like indoctrination, but not indoctrination like proper indoctrination, but like indoctrination like, using, I think I mentioned that to you, but it's like they'd teach like anything, even if it was dishonest, to kind of back their viewpoint. And and so because of that, like, keep in mind, like because of that, I have this real resistance to like even a struggle I have as a believer is like I have like resistance to like hymns and stuff. Like I have so much trouble with the whole like singing corporate singing to God, because some of it just feels, and this is my own thing, and like keep in mind this isn't a criticism of people who do it, it's more a criticism of myself, but it's like I get this gut feeling like when I see somebody like raise their hand and they're singing to God and stuff, it's like it kind of feels like the thing you have at a rock concert where it's like there's an energy you get from an audience and a crowd, and it's like if you're participating in it you feel good, and like and I don't even discount that from like that might be why God wants us to do that stuff, like because it's like it does feel good like but it's like I just like the skeptic in me and the part of me that it just like gets very nervous about that kind of thing, because like I would worry the person speaking in tongues, and not you, but like just for me, I would worry like, well, what if they're just getting moved by like passion and emotion, and sort of acting strange, because people can do that in crowds, like people do strange things in crowds when there's like a lot of energy and emotion and stuff. So however, that being said, it's like I think we are supposed to praise God and we are supposed to do corporate worship. So it's like that's one of my struggles as a Christian, is like kind of finding that part. But I think that's just because I had seen so many people who'd been like, they had hedged their belief systems on I guess they were kind of like very similar to like the Pharisees, and not you, the people from my school, right? That I grew up in, because it wasn't Pentecostal, it was Southern Baptist. But it felt like a lot of the people there were hedging their beliefs on things beyond the word itself. And that got a little weird, because it's like if you're hedging your belief on like like a gap in scientific knowledge or a gap in anything else, or like a feeling, it's like feelings change, and then like science closes gaps, you know. So it's like both are really prone to like very uncertain belief. Um, and so like the thing I'm only just saying for myself, but it's like the thing that I struggle with is like with something like that. I personally have trouble parsing what is crowd manipulation and what is authentic. Um, and I don't mean manipulation like intentional manipulation. It's not like I don't think like a pastor is like, haha, I'm gonna manipulate. You know, it's
Yeah.
more just like unintentional, like you know, if you're in a crowd and suddenly everybody's like start chanting something. It doesn't matter where, you know, it's like you know, suddenly the whole crowd starts chanting it because it feels good chanting something in unison with people. And like to me, it's like I'm glad you said you guys are careful with what you call the Holy Spirit, because like that's where I would draw it. You know, like for myself, it's like I would be personally really like for myself, I'd be really cautious to call something the Holy Spirit. You know, because but like that's my own thing on it, you know, like that's
Yeah.
I think that's why I probably need to find a church that would focus more on kind of like the logic of it. But I also, that's the struggle, because it's like if you get to a church that only focuses on the logic, then you can miss the spirit, right, for the letter.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm totally thinking out loud here, but it's a, and also, by the way, I love this kind of conversation because it's super fascinating to me. And I think about this kind of thing all the time. I mean, I don't think
Yeah.
about like not Pentecostalism, like, but just in general, like how should we practice? Like, how should we worship? You know, it's tough, you know, because it's like I said, there's a part of me, like whenever any congregation I've been in, if somebody like raises their hand in the air, I just feel like they're trying to like they're trying to draw attention to themselves, you know. And don't get me wrong, I don't think that's actually what's happening. I think the person's just being deeply moved, but it's just the cynic in me and like the skeptic in me that's still in me, you know, gets really like I get nervous about that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
for myself, not for like, I wouldn't be like, once again, it's not like a that's just my own thing, you know. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, yeah, I should. And
Does
from
that seem?
reading your book, like I could see that because I know it ended with I think it was Chip and his buddy,
Yeah.
and like they act one way in school, like with you, and then another way in church. So like it's
Yeah, and I mean, like the church I went to, like they were so focused on appearance and like appearance of holiness and appearance of like participation. You know, that like my sisters who are still believers, but it's like I might have told you this, but it's like the principal of our school during a chapel brought my sisters up in front of the entire chapel to as an example of how you shouldn't dress as a Christian because they were wearing black. Like that's
okay.
how absurd and like, you know, um pharisaical that whole system was, you know. And honestly, like the vice principal there ended up in like being a state representative for a while, so it's like it was definitely like the political like it was a political tool. And don't get me
Yeah,
wrong, there were a lot of really good believers that I'm sure were sincere there, but it's just, yeah, that's totally why I have like hesitance toward that kind of thing. But I also like I'm a fan of truth, and so it's like I never discount something that could be possibly true, you know. And like to me, none of that sounds heretical, you know. So, like, if it were heretical, I'd be like, Frank, what are you doing?
I don't know. I think it was like a few weeks ago. The assistant pastor. No, it was our pastor. he did a Sunday school where he talked about the Pharisees, but he like looked more into it, and it's still like I didn't even know and think about like the history. But like he was saying, like the Pharisees didn't start off how they were in Christ's time.
No, they totally didn't.
Yeah, they were the ones like yeah they followed the word, but like they're like taking care of people and like they're genuine Christians, but somewhere down the line it got more about appearance and just following the rules to follow the rules
Yeah.
and no leeway. Like
Well, and I think
uh,
it's because, like, it's like it makes sense, right? Because, like, the whole nature of sin, as Christians believe it, right, is like like sin isn't original. like
yeah,
like original sin exists, but it isn't all that original. What it does is it takes good things and then twists them. And
hmm
so it's like I think that's how it works. Like it's like, and it ties into a lot of like kind of cliches in our society where people are like, all things are good in moderation, right? There's some truth to that. Um, there are great things, and then I think we just have this tendency to like exploit, overdo, and corrupt like things that are good, because that's our nature, So it would make sense, like, that like the law, which is good, was corrupted for bad, you know.
yeah,
Um, and that's actually the verse that I kind of forgot. Like I'm really bad at remembering specific verses, and I'm also really bad with names. So like, confusing Mary and Martha, that kind of thing. um, but it's like um, the woe to you part was actually the verse that I was kind of referencing when I was talking to that misogynist guy who was saying I wasn't saved.
yeah,
Because I was like, there's a specific passage in there where he basically criticizes the Pharisees for basically saying who was and wasn't saved, and like who
yeah.
was and wasn't, um, and like what was one of the more convicting ones? Where it's like you'll travel across the world to kind of make someone like a member of your den of vipers, kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
it's like you'll spend all this expense just to kind of recruit someone. And so it's like that's something I always try to be careful of. But I definitely am not like a perfect believer, and I definitely am like pretty flawed and pretty new. Even though like I mean, definitely not that new, but like I feel like there's definite gaps in my knowledge, but um, yeah, it's weird because it's like the more I grow in that area, like the more I just start realizing, like, yeah, it's just like it's weird that there are divisions based on some things. Like some things it makes sense, but like to me, I don't personally see a big division. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
I'm fascinated by that, man. So that's the thing. It's basically tongues are like because of the day of Pentecost, and so that would
hmm
explain Pentecostal.
Yes.
Um, that makes sense. And then
Yeah.
just being evangelical in the sense of, and when you say evangelical, this is the annoying thing when talking to people who are really into politics, because they always associate evangelical with like evangelicals in politics, and it's like no, just the word evangelical just means evangelizing. So like
Yeah.
you feel like you're supposed to talk about what you believe, which is funny because it's like I feel like people should be doing that anyway. Like regardless of what you believe, you should be talking about what you believe. If you think it's
Hmm.
true, it's important to, like, kind of the core of common sense is like sharing truth.
Yeah,
and
and
testing truth, right? Like, because getting in these conversations, like, to me, hearing this, it's like there's very great biblical backing for that too, where it's like iron sharpens iron. So
mhm.
it's good for us to have these discussions because it's like, dude, I don't know a ton about Pentecostalism and I'm learning something. And then like, I don't know, hopefully you're learning something. Who knows?
Yeah.
Because, I don't know if I have anything much to learn from, but it's like, I do think we get stronger by having these conversations.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. Yeah.
I got to do a little more research on Lutherans because I don't know if there's anything particularly in their theology I would be like, thinking was like massively heretical.
Yeah.
But I am fascinated by it.
Yeah, like I
That's
don't
one of
know
the,
that much about them. So I don't know.
yeah, that's currently where I'm interested in theologically, but I'm not entirely sure. Look at that. Look at that lantern. What do you think of that lantern?
Oh
Oh my
wow.
gosh. Wow. Why is it bouncing all over the place? Okay. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm actually unable to see my screen right now. Oh, okay. You can see it.
Yeah, I can see it. Looks good. It's a seance?
Yeah, so it's I can't get it too into the plot, but it's like kind of a charlatan guy. He's one of the characters. Um and then there's two characters kind of going to see it actually makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense when you read the book, but it's about some historical figures and
Okay.
in the Victorian
It,
era there was a lot of
it
this
it
like
reminds me, and I don't know if that's uh what this is, but it reminds me of Harry Houdini because there was a time where he was trying to expose psychics
yeah.
as frauds. So
Yeah, it's definitely not Houdini, but it's you're warm. Like it's around that time. So
okay.
but yeah, it's about like part of why I can't share it is it's like it hasn't really been written about. So I mean there's letters and historical record and stuff, but like it's this whole fascinating part of some pretty well-known historical figures that nobody's done a book on. And so yeah, so we're keeping it kind of under wraps a little bit, so I have to keep it a little mysterious, but yes, it's very similar to that, so that's not off from the point of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because there was like this whole era where people would like in high society or whatever would go to these things, and I do love the stories of Houdini going and just debunking them are so awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Yeah. I think
and
it was around the
this dude
same time.
actually was a pretty famous guy at the time who, like, I think, well, I don't want to give away too much,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
but
'Cause
yeah,
I know there's someone else, but I don't know if that's part of your story, so I don't want to say the name. But
yeah. I mean, well, anyhow, I can't give it away, but
yeah.
yeah. But I'm excited about it because it's like if I can do the 5 pages, then we can get the script rolling around, and
Okay.
we kind of pick this part of the story because it's just like a mysterious kind of, sets the tone. So yeah,
That's good. That's good. It looked interesting when you first started doing it, like, oh, that looks like a seance. Yeah,
oh, it totally is. Yeah,
so,
um, and it's an interesting. Oh man, I do hope we get picked up for it because it's like, so my sister wrote the script and she did a lot of research on it too, like years of research. And it's got a lot of stuff like drama, intrigue, scammers.
Okay.
Like this is a scammer. But it's just really interesting. And so I'm really hoping it gets picked up because it's a great story. And I really want to share more about it, but I can't because we have to keep it under wraps till it's, gone the rounds and either gets rejected or picked up. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, you got a good kind of close, but yeah.
Yeah, now I want to talk more about it. Like, okay, I probably should.
Yeah. I do love that era though. And Houdini, I used to like as a kid, I was so obsessed with like books or anything I could check out from the library about Houdini.
Mm-hmm.
It was just so cool. Guy was such a rad dude.
Anna has one of his magic books and it looks old. She was showing me a picture.
Oh, nice.
She's like, "Oh, it's cool. I like magic."
Oh, dude, I do too. And I have a buddy who is like now a professional magician, and he's a member of the Magic Castle.
Oh, okay.
And I need to, after COVID is done, I'm going to be bugging him. There's also another member of the National Cartoonist Society who's a member of the Magic Castle as well. So it's like I gotta get in there sometime just to see it because they do like the real like the less showy magic, but like the sleight of hand stuff that's really hard that they do like right at the table.
Yeah.
And it's like most good magicians have to master those like basic forms, before they get into it. But I think that's awesome. So you like magic? You're into magic?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, magic tricks are awesome. Did you ever do magic tricks as a kid?
I tried, like, I would get some of the books and like, and I tried to like do some. I could never like master them. Sometimes I'll mess with my kids, and they know like I'm playing around. But sometimes like I'll see what's there and make sure they don't see it. I was having a FaceTime call with my daughter, and I noticed that in the back of her there was a water bottle, but she didn't realize it was there. So I was like, "Watch this! Look at my hand. I'm gonna make a water bottle appear behind you." And she turned around. How'd you do that? Like, it was already there. Like I just kind of.
That is so fun to do. Like, yeah, I used to be able to do magic tricks when my son was really young, And I mean, he's still
I'm
young, but
working on
it's
one
like,
now.
oh,
Like,
nice.
you see, like, you got this mini comic. Oh, hold on.
Oh, nice. Nicely done. That was good. That was beautiful. Wonderful magic trick. So there's been magic tricks. We've talked theology. We have, I mean, been all over the place with topics, man. That's cool though. Yeah, when I was a kid, I had the little, like one of those little starter magic kits.
Mm-hmm.
And people who are watching, just pretend you can't see this text if anyone's watching this far. Luckily, this is not important text. Otherwise, I'd be doing this off stream, which is actually another reason I have not been streaming like nightly, is working on this. There's some type I really can't show anyone. And so it's like, I worry I'd make a mistake like I did just now by revealing the type, and it would be like a character name or something. And then like, yeah, I don't want to do that. So, but anyhow, so when I was a kid, I had one of the little starter kits. And I built like a box, like one of those pull boxes that like you put like a cup in, and then the whole interior is like painted completely black.
Yeah.
So that like it has like a trap within it, so that it looks like the thing is empty even though it's not. And I ended up hand building one because we couldn't afford the magic store one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like really interested. I learned a lot of the rope tricks and then very quickly forgot them. But I did like the rope magic, where you do like you tie a knot and then there was a specific way you could tie it so it looked like when you cut it, you'd be able to go like this and it would just pop the knot off. Like, yeah, those were fun, man. But it requires so much practice. And the friend I have who's he actually was an old roommate, like one of my first roommates when I first moved out of my family's house. But it's like he only has one hand.
Okay.
And so he does one-handed magic, and he's good enough at it to be a member of the Magic Castle and do shows there and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Pretty cool. Yeah. Proud of that dude. He also can play guitar better than me. I never quite figured out. I think it's just overcoming the odds or something. But anyhow.
Like there's that. Isn't there a runner or what was that movie? Chariots of Fire, where like the runner like was missing limbs or something.
Oh, dude, I have not seen Chariots of Fire in years. That's so good. I have not seen that in years. When was the last time you saw that movie?
It was a long time. Like,
I wonder if that's on like any of the streaming platforms or anything.
I know it's been talked about. Like, I want to see that because I haven't seen that in years. I think I saw it as a kid. But.
Yeah, I rewatched Lawrence of Arabia, and aside from some problematic stuff that didn't age well, that's still a really beautiful movie. Like, it's beautifully shot. But I feel like around that time it was like Chariots of Fire, Lawrence of Arabia. There were like 2 or 3 movies like everybody knew. There were like these huge films, and I think Chariots of Fire was just like one of those ones. Yeah.
Like I had seen Gone with the Wind, and like that was like a huge recognizable film. Now, like some of it's a little questionable, but
yeah, that one did not age well. Although that actor is really rad. I'm forgetting his name now.
Clark Gable? No, is it Clark?
Yeah. So Clark Gable, and I think let me double check, but I think it's called It Happened One Night. And my favorite yes, It Happened One Night. So if you want to see like the best movie with Clark Gable, check out It Happened One Night. It's a great movie. Plays this reporter who has to like babysit like a rich girl.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious. It's one of the best classic comedies. Yeah. I'm also a nerd for like old movies. I love them.
Yeah, I like old classic movies. I used to watch the Turner Classic Network. Turner movies.
Oh, nice.
And there was a movie I was a couple of years ago that I was watching, and it looked interesting for the time. Like I liked it. It was about this. I guess it's kind of like a Lois Lane, but without Superman. So she's this female reporter. She's like, I'm gonna get the story, and does all this stuff, like cracks this case wide open. At the end of the movie, she gets to the newspaper place, and she's talking to the boss, and he's like, I cracked this story, and you're gonna run it, and like, you know what? All you need is a husband. Come here and give me a kiss. Okay, and then they kiss and like, what?
Yeah,
you
some
just
of
need
that
a
stuff.
man. You just need a man, this big, strong female character, and like she just quits her everything she was doing to like, wait, what was this about?
I'm curious what that movie is though, because it sounds really familiar. Was there a
I don't
dead
remember
body
the
in it?
name, but it was like this female, and I thought it was gonna be a series of movies because it looked like, oh, okay, she's gonna be the heroine and solve these crimes and report on scandals, and at the end she's like gives up being a reporter. I was like, wait,
I'm so curious though, like, because I think I might have seen this. Okay, so does the movie have like a like is there somehow like a oh my gosh. Was Cary Grant in it?
I don't, I'm not sure because
Okay.
he's not the guy that she gets with. It was like this like pudgy guy, so I'm not
Okay.
sure.
Huh.
And he's not even
Okay.
like a big like part of the. It was just like he's just the boss, and he's like, "You just need a man. Come here." And like, okay. Like, oh,
I
it
can't
totally did
believe
not match. It totally did not match the rest of the movie. Like,
yeah.
oh, like
But I guess for that era and time, they're just like, yeah, that fits that character.
yeah.
Oh man, that's great. Well,
All right.
I am almost finished with this. I'm pretty stoked.
No, cool.
However, I'm also starting to draw bad, so I might have to call it
Okay.
because it's like
Yeah.
I'm
And
definitely feeling the
I got a few of these made already.
hell
So.
yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for hanging out, Frank, and it is awesome. Yeah, awesome hanging out and chatting. Thanks to anybody who's watched this far. If you guys haven't yet, go buy Two Stories on Amazon.com. And Frank, where can people like get your mini comics? If you want to.
Well, right now, if you go to my coffee link, my coffee account, and donate the minimum of $3, and I'll send you some PDF mini comics, and you also get this one if you ask for it by name, the Captain Goggles and Mask Woman mini comic digital bundle. You get this in a PDF, and you also get 2 printouts of Captain Courage and Mask Woman paper dolls or paper crafts and 2 coloring pages. And I just finished the second one in PDF. I'm just making some assets for that, so that will be available soon. And you can also get that as a second digital bundle.
I love it. And then Mama Soto just joined us and part
Oh,
of our Texan wing of the Night Gang. Yes. But we're about to crash. So it's nice seeing you though, Mama Soto. Nice to. I'm gonna try to do another stream tonight because I want to get back in the flow of it. I just have to stop watching my obsessive spamming. And then Mike Odin was asking, did you use photo references? A lot of photo references you took yourself in Two Stories. 100% used a lot of photo references. I use photo reference for tons of my work. Like I feel like if you can get an example from life, it is always going to be better. But then again, it depends specifically on which parts of Two Stories, because like obviously for like this stylistic style, like where it's like this weird kind of cartoony style, there's no photo reference. So, but yeah, good question. All right, so anyhow, anything? Let's see here. Oh, okay. Mama Soto is about to crash too.
okay.
Yeah, the opening bridge scene for sure. There's a ton of photography that was used all over the place. So yeah, yeah. Do you use photo reference at all, Frank, when you're doing your stuff?
Uh, yeah, when I want to get a certain pose or a
Yeah.
certain angle, use photo reference.
Mhm.
Even doing because Captain Goggles and Mask Woman, it's based on it's me and Anna, just like if we were superhero agents. So like I had to like practice drawing Anna
Mhm.
in a certain style. So like
Yeah.
and then like I have to look at myself and like
Yep.
and try to get it down as best as I can. I think the art's improved in the second issue.
Oh,
Where I drew.
Mike was saying clever layouts looked great and the story flowed really well. Thanks, man.
Oh yeah.
Appreciate that. I think I'm excited to see those minis too. So, like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Congrats on
Once I
getting
finish
to that point.
once I finish these packs, because I made a certain number, and I want to see if I can get some my local comic book shop. But I think I'll have about maybe 7 or 8 left over, and there are some that are kind of spoken for. But I do want to put some of those up uh,
Cool.
on sale. So like I'll definitely like hey, I got some extra copies. I think I'll sell them for like $3, and I'll just put my PayPal. But you get two mini comics and these just dropped one. These 3 artist cards that I'm coloring myself. I printed these
That's
out, but
awesome.
I color each and every one of them. And
I
in
love it.
hindsight, I probably should have just done one, but I wanted to give people a bang for a buck.
That's cool. Well,
Character.
oh, that's sweet. All right, cool. Well, thanks, Frank, for hanging out. Thanks, Mama Soto. Thanks, Mike, for joining. And hopefully, the cool thing is today now, but tomorrow in my mind, because it's 1 a.m. now, or 1:30. But like tomorrow, being like later today, I'm hoping to do one that's like more of a traditional night gang where I go a lot longer and hopefully get some massive progress done on this pitch so that I can get back to 2 stories. And I really appreciate hanging with you. So we will see you guys probably tonight, or hope if we don't, I got hooked on another scam baiting video or like weird video on Logic and yeah. All right. Have a good night, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Cool. I can't see if it ended. Oh, wait. No, it did.